The big news today is the announcement that the FBI is going to be given new powers in order to fight the threat of mass shootings being carried out in the United States, primarily due to white supremacy. So, the FBI, or more specifically the US government, decided to do the one thing that probably wouldn't help. Increase the laws that can throw people in jail for terrorism rather than actually stop terrorism in general. Be prepared to punish people rather than doing something to combat white supremacy. Now, of course, this is a usual bourgeois government thing. They don't actually deal with the problem. They just create something to make things a little bit more difficult for the perpetrator afterwards and put through more draconian laws to hurt people beforehand. In other words, the FBI is asking for more powers to essentially control the U.S. public. And that's exactly what this is. And U.S. President Donald Trump has declared his intention to give the FBI all the powers necessary in order to do that. Now, the first most important thing I think that would probably come up is the sudden reversal in Donald Trump's concern for the public. Obviously, this has not been the case with his economic policy. This has not been the case with his environmental policy. Now, all of a sudden, he's concerned. Well, I think this has something to do with the election coming up. I don't think it's anything controversial to say that Donald Trump probably doesn't care anything about human life, let alone American life. I doubt his concern, his ability to be concerned, goes any farther than his bathroom mirror or his wallet. And I think that's pretty much evidenced by a lot of the policies he did decide to make. So I think this is a very clearly a political move to try to get people who are more liberal-leaning in the country to come up and support him. This is, of course, a very cosmetic thing that won't really accomplish the goal it is that he's making it look like that he's trying to reach. Which brings me to Walmart, who has decided that instead of getting rid of guns, they're going to get rid of violent ads for video games. Now, I'm not an advocate for gun control by any means, but you can kind of see the logic here. They don't want to touch the guns because that's going to make money. And they don't want to get rid of video games because that's a massive industry as well. In fact, the United States has the third largest video game industry in the entire world, next to Japan and South Korea. But apparently, according to the head Republican of the 32nd District of California, Japan doesn't have video games. But that's a separate thing altogether. So in other words, what is it? Dealing with this, getting rid of ads inside the store, was like the least Walmart could possibly do without having done absolutely nothing. But what it is completely cosmetic. If you think getting rid of ads, violent ads for video games in Walmart is going to cut down on mass shootings, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that's pretty obvious. So that's completely reflected in what is now going to be U.S. policy. To do something cosmetic that's going to make it look like they're doing something about mass shootings, but really doesn't. Which brings me back to what it is that the FBI says that they are going to do. Oh, they're decided to create a whole bunch of new draconian laws to spy on people and giving them more powers, getting rid of the necessity of getting a warrant in many cases, or changing the jurisdictions for the FBI to be able to get warrants in certain cases. In other words, this is more draconian 1984 Orwellian kind of public control, and isn't going to do anything whatsoever to deal with mass shootings because it doesn't. It does not tackle the actual thing that causes mass shootings, which is white supremacy. White supremacy, largely a product of not just hate, but also capitalist alienation, just as most suicides, most drug addiction is caused by capitalist alienation, which is also not being addressed in the United States whatsoever, and God forbid we would hold anybody accountable in the pharmaceutical industry for pumping out so much goddamn fentanyl. So in other words, as usual, with capitalism, they're not going to do anything to actually solve the problem, but they're going to do a bunch of stuff that's either completely cosmetic, like getting rid of video game ads, or they're going to do something that's just fascist and put more controls on the actual public rather than dealing with the problem. Now, I think this is pretty obvious, and we kind of knew this was coming, and that's the way things are going to be because, well, this is capitalism. So, once again, we do have the repeated tragedies that have occurred, not just these shootings, but about 5 mass shootings that have been stopped since those original 2. A couple of guys who were getting ready to commit massacres were stopped, which is a good thing. So this does show that even in like the few days afterwards, things are definitely getting worse. That these white supremacist shooters, like the Ohio Walmart shooter, who was totally a Antifa person, according to right-wing nutjobs on the internet, who feel that if somebody doesn't like race mixing or Mexicans, they must therefore be Antifa because that's something Antifa is known for, right? No, of course not. You're full of shit and you're lying. So, what have we learned here today? Right-wingers are dumb. Trump's not going to do shit. Walmart is at best just giving some kind of token mention to all this, and that's it, something completely cosmetic. Trump's going to put through more quasi-fascist laws, and the entire problem of white supremacist shootings will continue to exist because it's not getting addressed at all. All hail capitalism. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.